Now, whether it's a sibling rivalry, stubborn children or temper tantrums, dealing with anger and anxiety in children can be very difficult to cope with, and conflict resolution expert Fiona has co-written a series of books on the subject, and she's here to answer some of your questions right now. Good morning, Fiona. And there's a couple of very interesting ones, rather distressing questions have come in already. The first two, I think, are kind of typical, and maybe there's a kind of generic answer for them. But first one is from Anne in Cork. Everyone advised me to leave a big gap between my children so that they would get on better and they'd be less roused. There are 6 years between my daughter and son, but they never stop fighting, ever. They can't agree on anything, and it's making everybody in the household unhappy. What does she do? Yeah.
I think, you're right in saying that that kind of behaviour with siblings would be quite typical of a lot of households. There's a sort of pattern has got in. There's a sort of ongoing conflict running between the kids, and it kind of goes down, it comes up, and it goes down, it comes up. You know, sometimes they're going to be fighting, sometimes it's very kind of not talking or whatever. And I don't know so much whether it's the 6 years between them or not. I think what really, it's a case of asking them, actually maybe first of all talking to them individually and saying, look, this has to change, it's making the house very unhappy. What happens when you and your sister or you and your brother get into a fight? How do you feel? You're trying to give them the language. It's a little bit like if you think of an iceberg. What you're witnessing in the house is the top of the iceberg. What's going underneath is how they're feeling about each other, how they get frustrated with each other, the difficulties they have with each other. And until you can start really talking about that, it's going to be difficult to know what a solution is.
I'm just wondering, if there's only 2 children, and one was the prince or princess for 6 years, had complete run, keys to the kingdom, so to speak, apple of the eye, all the attention, then somebody else comes along and usurps that, then there is automatically an inbuilt resentment. Or even just a lack of understanding of how come nobody's paying any attention to me anymore. And then that builds into resentment and then eventually into open
absolutely.
warfare.
And again, this is one of the key things with conflict resolution work. There will be something underneath the surface of the fight. So in this case, that could well be the case. And it's talking about it, it's helping your child talk to you about how they feel. You know, it's hard to share, it's, you know, whatever it is.
Okay, right, say that Anne talks and the eldest, the older one, comes along and says, well, look, I don't like her, or I don't like him. Like, everything was mine until then, now he's here and I don't want to share, and I hate him. You know, he's spoiled everything, it's not the same anymore, and it'll never be the same.
Well, I think you have to be honest and say, well, no, it's not the same. You know, it's not the same, it can't be the same. And
but you have to be careful about making concessions then to them to try and balance it, don't you?
It's a question really not so much of concessions, but actually getting your kids to talk about their feelings. That's the thing here, that actually once we start talking about why we're upset, and there's something that happens to us when we get into conflict, we get very caught in the sort of anger, the emotions. We can't find the right language. Once we start being able to talk about our feelings with somebody that we trust, like a parent, then we do start feeling better ourselves. So actually the fact that the little princess starts talking about that and feeling that she's being heard and she's being understood, even if it's difficult things, even if it is saying...
Okay, so start with the eldest one and see what the problem there is, and if it may just be a case of sibling resentment rather than rivalry.
Maybe, but I think ultimately you're wanting to bring the two together and say, look, this has to change. What are we going to do to change about it?
Right, Claire and Mead, my 12-year-old girl keeps snapping at me, mostly when I ask her a question. She tells me she hates me once every so often. What should I do? She's very nice to other people, hangs out with other people I don't want her to be with. Well, I think that's fairly typical of a lot of 12-year-old boys and girls. Also, 12-year-old girl, there may be something else going on there. Puberty could be literally around the corner, and that might have a lot to do with this. Yes,
I was looking at this, and when a child snaps like that, I'm wondering what the question is. I'm wondering what she's being asked. Is it to do with you're not going out, you know, I'm not letting you play with your friends or go out with your friends? Is it something else? Is there a recurrent question that she snaps? You know,
or if she's not, if it's at everything, then...
Well, there's something there maybe in sitting down and having a conversation. You know I keep coming back to this talking, but that is the key to conflict resolution, really, is getting the right conversation.
Well, 11, 12, 13-year-old girls have got another change just about to happen in their lives, and hormones are flying all over the place, and that could be the root cause.
I have a 13-year-old daughter, and she said to me about 2 weeks ago, she said, I notice that I don't want to agree with you very much now, Mum. And I thought, yeah, okay, I'll put myself on warning there. There's a lot going on in a teenage girl's head that, you know, what do I take from my mum as being right in the world? What do I find out for myself? What do I do when I disagree? So there's some sort of there's confusions for those teenage years. We remember them ourselves, and I think, you know, for a mum, it's very important to sit down maybe in a calm state, when the daughter's in a calm state as well, and say, you remember when you said you hated me? You know, I want to understand what was going on for you at that time, and see if you can get some sort of conversation going on.
Okay, we have several other questions we didn't get around to, and plenty more. Unfortunately, time has run out. However,
what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer these on our website.
Right.
www.resolvingbooks.com. I will take time to answer these after.
All right. There's two in particular about bullying and violence between boys, which is very important to look at, because Beth in Waterford and Joanna May are kind of at their wits' end. www.resolvingbooks.com. You'll also find the series there, or more information about them: Resolving Bullying, Resolving Anger, and Resolving Sibling Rivalry. Fiona McCausland, for the time being, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay.